I am Alan. You'll get to meet Rocio, one of my colleagues, and Angela is still in here, I think so. There she is. We are the student academic assistants at Bryan University. Like Margaret was saying, we're going to I do have a short PowerPoint, but I'm not a huge fan of PowerPoints. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open it up. We're going to go slide by slide. It's just, I think, 7 or 8 slides. And it's got some basic tips on it. And then Rocio and Angela, we're going to chime in on what works for us. And if you have any questions at any point in there, just feel free, speak up, let us know. And, we'll share some ideas and hopefully everybody will learn a little bit from this. So if I can get this PowerPoint, everybody should be able to see my PowerPoint now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. I started with let's see here. We have all been at this point. Every one of us has had this moment where I'm not sure if this girl is napping or if she's banging her head on the desk in frustration, but I thought it was a really good image to kind of display how all of us have felt in our studies at some time or another. And it's 90 minutes long. You really should try to set aside 3 hours of study time. Now, that's not, like I said, not sitting down trying to cram in a textbook for 3 hours straight. But the average that you're going to want to try to set aside each day is 2 hours for every hour of class time. Because going to class is only the beginning. The real work begins after the class.
Alan, I just want to chime in here, and guys, I'm so sorry. My camera broke an hour and a half ago, so I don't have my camera up. But this is Angela, and Alan, when you say an average of 2 hours of study time each day, this was actually when I first started school. This was one of my biggest challenges, is kind of looking at the big picture instead of kind of spacing it out. So I made a commitment to myself because I, like many other people, love social media. So for a week, I tracked how many minutes a day I would go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even just sometimes I'll go on the internet and I'll search Bing, like if I have an extra 5 or 10 minutes and I'm just bored, and I'll look at the news through Bing. And I did that for a week, and I was really shocked at the fact that on average every single day I spent almost an hour and a half total on social media, and that's not an hour and a half all at once. That was an hour and a half throughout the day. So for example, if I was at I have an 8-year-old daughter, so if we were waiting for a doctor's appointment, or if I was at, her basketball practice, and she's practicing, that's an hour that I can get on my phone and I can read, or I can study, or I can bring flashcards with me. I know a lot of people have doctor's appointments throughout the week. They have, certain things that they have to do throughout the week where maybe the wait time, they can kind of fit some type of studying in. Even if you're creating flashcards, just bringing them along with you, or accessing something like Quizlet on your phone and studying those flashcards. I was surprised that an hour and a half every single day of my life was spent to social media. I took that away and I replaced that with my study time. And it just so happened that, when I started this, it was like I was only studying for 15, 20 minutes at a time. But because I did have that in my schedule, I replaced the social media with study hours or study minutes. I ended up getting myself into this routine where, just like Alan has on this slideshow, it's almost like breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or the 6 to 8 hours of sleep I get at night. It was just in my schedule.
And that's basically the point that I was trying to make. You just said it considerably more eloquently than I did. You don't have it. it seems like a lot. You go, okay, 2 hours for each hour of class time. It seems like a ton, but if it's 15 minutes while you're waiting, waiting for a delivery, waiting for the mail to show up, or you're waiting on the bus, or you go to the doctor and you're sitting in the waiting room for 20, 30, 45 minutes. That's time when you can pull out your phone, pull out your tablet, your laptop, and do some study. I don't know anybody that, especially when you have kids and you're working 2, 3 jobs and things like that, I don't know anybody that can sit down for 3 hours at a time in one block. So you have to just think of it as a total 5-10 minutes at a time. It's easy to come up with a couple of hours every day.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add, Rocio?
No, you guys kind of said it all. That's pretty much, yeah, just set aside time. That's what I do my assignments, my reading throughout the day. I don't have a set time. As long as I have time, I will do it. I still do everything I need to do throughout the day, take, any of my chores, errands, housework. And then when I have time in between those chores, that's when I do my assignments. And it works for me. Sometimes I stay up later. Sometimes I only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but that's a sacrifice you make in order to further your education.
Yep. Okay, anybody got any questions? If not, we'll just go on to the next slide. Okay, I'm just hearing crickets, so I'm thinking nobody has any. And here's another thing that, and a lot of these concepts are things that we as the tutors have discussed in our meetings, and we've kind of learned each other's styles. But I think everybody is going to find this to be true, is don't try to cram all your studying into one session. There have been study after study after study after study that shows that if you space it out over shorter periods of time and learn to be consistent with that and to have those regular short study periods, you're going to retain information at a higher rate. You're going to retain a greater percentage of what you read. There was a joint study that was done between Duke University's Medical Center, University of Michigan, and Stanford University did a joint study and said that the efficiency of learning begins to decline at approximately the 45-minute point in a study session. So let's say you were to have 2 hours that were free that you could devote to your studies. Don't try to go 2 hours at one stretch. Study for 30, 40, 45 minutes. Get up, stretch your legs, walk outside, take the dog out in the backyard, walk around the block, take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, and then come back. You might think that's wasting time. I've only got 2 hours. But you're actually going to be more efficient if you break it up into those shorter periods of time. You will actually retain more information.
I think, Alan, I want to make a comment on this slide because the second bullet point is really important. The words that you used are really important. Words like consistent and regular. I think we're all creatures of habit. And I think that when we force our brains to become consistent and regular and routine, it doesn't seem like quote unquote studying. It's just a part of your day. It's a part of your life. And I think that a lot of the people that I work with don't necessarily understand that. When it comes to schoolwork, it's kind of the same thing. But as many of us know, our classes change every mod, our live sessions change every mod, the workload changes every mod, but studying doesn't necessarily change every mod. You may have more reading material, one mod than another. You may be taking 2 3-credit courses as opposed to 1 6-credit course. So the workload may change, but your study habits and your consistency and your regularity in that sense, with just studying or putting aside time to do that does not change. So the sooner that you can be consistent in your habits and creating those good study habits, the easier it's going to be.
Just to add to that, I personally like to take naps. I do. If I start reading and doing my assignments and my eyes are closing, that means that I am not going to retain any information. So if you can sneak in a 15, 20-minute power nap, do it. You'll see the difference once you wake up, feel refreshed. Or maybe you're one of those people that can't be refreshed after a nap and it's just worse, then don't do it. You have to also know your body and listen to your body. If your body needs some rest, then you need some rest. And also, yeah, like Angela said, trick your brain. If you have an assignment and you're procrastinating, you can trick your brain into being like, well, I'm going to start it right now, and then I'll finish it later. And you'll see that once you sit down and you start it, you're not going to stop. But you trick your brain into starting the assignment or starting the reading, and you'll be done before you know it. And you will be able to retain that information. But listen to your body. Listen to what your body needs. Rest, maybe a cup of coffee, something to stimulate the brain.
Excellent idea. Anytime you mention coffee, I'm all in favor of that.
Ditto.
Yeah, I went to the doctor the other day. My blood type is Maxwell House. So
Mine is Folgers.
Folgers, okay. We can't donate blood to each other then. Okay.
Is it good to study at the same time every day to kind of get in a routine, a regular pattern, or something like that?
Ruth, I actually think that and Alan and Rocio can chime in. It really depends on you and your lifestyle. So for example, and Rocio and I have had this conversation before, she is very much more laid back and relaxed about her studying. She needs to be in a quiet, calm place. She needs to be comfortable. She needs to have coffee with her.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's much different. I need to be in a situation where I'm not necessarily comfortable. So for me to study, I like to sit on the floor. I like to vary my time. So if one day I have to do laundry, I'll be studying in between switching over loads. Whereas Rocio will sit down and she will do it. She will be in a comfortable environment and she will study and she will do her reading. I cannot study or read that way. So it's really, you have to kind of figure out what works for you.
Okay.
And I think the best way to do that is just try everything. Try to sit down the same times every day. For me, that doesn't work.
Gotcha.
For me, I kind of, I take that extra time, like I was explaining before, and I use that to study. Rocio says that, she does her studying, mostly, during the day. Like she'll get everything done that she needs to get done, and then she'll start. And sometimes, she's up much later. I
Right.
can't do that. That doesn't work for me.
Right.
So, and Alan, and we've had this conversation as well, he has a strict routine of going to the gym and then fitting his studies around that throughout the day. So
Gotcha.
it's really whatever works best for you. And I know that's not really an answer.
Right.
You really have
But
to
everybody
find
has different lifestyle and they have different things going on, and I totally understand that. I just didn't know if it would be best to maybe try that and start from there.
Yeah.
Because when I was in high school, which was many, many years ago, we'll not go into any further detail. It was very hard. I mean, it was very hard for me to study and things like that, but I never got into good study habits, when I was in high school. So I didn't know if that might be somewhere to maybe start.
Yeah, I would definitely say start planning out maybe 30-minute increments at
Right.
the same time every day, and
Right.
try that for about a week.
All right.
If that doesn't work, try fitting maybe shorter periods of time where you can just use flashcards or you can just read, you know, a chapter, and you can just absorb that information. Doesn't have to be the same time every single day, and
Sure.
try that for a week.
Okay.
Another thing that's good is printing out the chapter summaries, and
Mhm.
as you read and as you study, use those as references. So like
That's a good idea.
that's something that I do. I carry the chapter summaries around with me for each week of the module. So if I'm shopping, if I'm at the grocery store and I'm waiting online, I have this long line, I'll just start going through the chapter summary in my head. I'll read it. I carry it on me. You know, I like fold it up. It's nothing like I'm not carrying a binder around. I literally have these pieces of paper just folded up in my purse. And I pull them out and I kind of, you know, quiz myself as I'm waiting in line because that's extra time.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
And to piggyback off of what Angela was saying about the chapter summaries, when you are reviewing material, when you're reading material for a class, it's best to actually look at those chapter summaries. Think of those topics in those chapter summaries as a question.
Okay.
Think about it. Okay, this summary for this chapter for this class is this subject. And then as you read, absorb that. You're going to be looking to absorb that information that answers the questions of that topic.
Okay.
You know what you're trying to absorb, know what topic you're working on,
Right.
and then what your brain's going to do is it's going to go, oh, wow, I see how that paragraph right there fits exactly into this topic.
Gotcha.
So think
Okay.
about that topic almost like an open-ended question. And as you're reading, you'll start to find the answers that match up with that topic.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Now, here's another thing. This has always been a problem for me, and this is specifically why I put this slide on there. When you set aside study time, like say you do find that, Ruth, that work, you know you're going to sit down for an hour every morning at 8 o'clock. Have that study time. Make sure to have a specific goal. Say that you're going to work on, I'm going to read these 2 chapters during that time, or I'm going to work on this discussion question, or I'm going to work on this assignment this week. Have a specific goal. Think about it like going on a trip. You're not going to start any trip without knowing where you want to end up. You're going to So make sure that you know when you sit down what you're going to cover. Because, and like I said, it's a problem that I have had in the past, and I have so many things on my plate sometimes that I will have a tendency to get distracted and start thinking, oh no, I've got to do 3 different assignments this week. Set aside a certain amount of time. That study time is to meet one specific goal. If you find out that you're just blasting through it and you've got some extra time, then you can move on to something else. But start with a specific goal and work towards that.
I also want to add to that, Alan, because that's really important. Something that I have found helps, and again, I have a pretty good study routine and a pretty good just general routine of how to get through each week of each mod. Something that I find really works for me is normally I will do my chapter reading that week's reading on Sunday, Monday, and if it's a lot, I'll allot Tuesday for reading as well. But I try to get it done Sunday and Monday. And before I even get it done, I actually go and I look at the assignments and the questions first. And the reason I do that is because these assignments and discussion questions are catered specifically to the chapters that you are going to be reading. So these are the things, and again, you really can't predict what's going to happen in the live session, but to add to the studying, the live session is important. But really, the assignments and the discussion questions for that week will kind of give you an idea of what you need to be absorbing the most. So by even just taking a peek at those before you have any intent of starting them or completing them, it'll kind of give you an idea of where you need to go with your reading and where you need to go with your studying, what you need to absorb. And then again, like Alan said, and you know, like how I said before with the chapter summaries, these are going to give you really good guidelines. I can't think of a better word than good. These are going to give you guidelines for what you need to be learning for that week and what you need to be studying and where you need to take that, so you're not just going into the chapters or going into the reading or going into sometimes there will be videos and articles and stuff like that you have to review. You're not going into it blindly.
Yeah, actually, to add to that, Angela, what I like to do is I like to look at on Sunday before I start my assignments or my reading or whatever I want to start on Sunday, the day before the week starts. I go through all the assignments for whatever classes I have. I like to see what assignments are being given. I like to read them, not necessarily do them, but at least in my mind, I'm starting to already plan out my week, what I'm going to start with first, what I'm going to read first, what quizzes am I going to take first. You know, I even like to, I look at the discussion questions, and in my mind, I'm already kind of answering it. You know, so that's important. So it is, have a goal. It's very true.
Okay, we got more cricket sounds here, so I guess we'll move on. Procrastination is something that we have mentioned several times. All of us have, and everybody does it. To a certain degree, everybody does it. But successful students do not procrastinate when it comes to studying. Does it mean that life doesn't throw up unexpected obstacles in your path, change of plans, problems like that? Yeah, that happens. And that's going to happen to everybody. But don't procrastinate your studying. If you have set aside the time to do it and you have the time to do it, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you in the long run if you go ahead and do it. It's really easy. You go, oh, I'm really just not into this particular class. This subject is boring. I'm just going to put it off. Eventually, you're still going to have to do it. So plan it out early in the week and try to knock it out early in the week. The reason being, when you do have those obstacles, you know, when the baby is sick, you have to stay late at work, you have internet problems, whatever the case may be, those obstacles, if you've pushed everything towards the last couple of days of the week, you've put everything off until late Saturday or Sunday and all of your assignments are due, when those problems do come up, then you're out of time. So plan it out. Try to get it in as early in the week as possible so that when those natural events in everybody's life come up, you've not pushed yourself against a wall.
I want to add to this as well, Alan, just talking about life in general. I think that a lot of us, you know, I can't speak for you and Rocio, but I can speak for myself and a lot of the people that I've worked with. We have a hard time remembering how great it is that we're enrolled in school. It's, you know, a lot of the people I come across are moms or dads, and they work 1, 2, 3 jobs, and they're still fitting school into their life. So I think with regards to procrastination, it's almost like another mind trick in a sense. I think that rewarding yourself is really, really important. You know, to be able to, you know, set goals, like Alan said, to fit in that study time and fit in time for, you know, your readings early on in the week. I think that it's really important to, and go based off of your financial situation. I'm not trying to put you guys in a hole, but if you guys by the end of the week, you know, or you can even do it every 2 weeks, the ladies here, you know that you put all your effort into this. You didn't procrastinate. You studied. You did your reading early on in the week. Well, maybe later in the week, go get your nails done, or go get some coffee at a cafe and just sit there and people watch, or go out with a friend, for a drink or two. And that, the same thing with guys. But, um, for the guys, go play a round of golf, or, do something that's, give yourself a reward for the work that you're putting in, because procrastination, in my opinion, happens when your brain tells you, well, I have time to do that. If you tell yourself, if this is done by Wednesday, and then I can work on my discussion questions and assignments, I'm going to reward myself. So you are telling your brain, no, you don't have time to put this off. You have no time, because you want to get that reward at the end of the week. And it's just like another mind trick. You're tricking your brain into believing that you have no time to procrastinate. And then at the end of that, and again, every week or every 2 weeks, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a huge reward. If you like, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy or Scandal, like, binge watch for a couple of hours, set aside time, have that as your reward. But I think it's really important to remember that what you're doing here is great, and it's not, you deserve rewards. So that's something that could also work.
I agree 100%. The only thing that I would change in what you said was, you said the ladies when it comes to manicures.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There is no reason a man can't look clean and fresh.
I know.
I don't go with
I know.
polish, but I'll get a mani-pedi
I know that
too.
was gender bias. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're so pretty, Alan.
Yeah.
all
My cuticles are sharp now. I'm looking good. But no, I think the idea of rewarding yourself will actually, like Angela said, will help you avoid that procrastination. Because if you know you've got not just the satisfaction of getting a good grade on an assignment. Yes, we all want those. But set aside some reward later in the week. If you get everything done and you haven't procrastinated, you've gotten everything complete. Do like Angela said, give yourself a reward. Take a friend, stop for coffee, get yourself a manicure, and people watch all in one trip if you have to.
I have a bottle of Riesling in my refrigerator that is reward all its own. Thank you very much.
Well, I've got a fridge full of Heineken, that might be happening sometime this end of this week.
Ew. I'm a Samuel Adams lover myself.
Oh no.
reward yourself.
No.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. This kind of ties in with the procrastination. Now, this is, I am a firm believer that if you have, say you're taking 2 classes at a time, one's going well, you're having no trouble with the assignments, but one you're struggling with. It's a difficult habit to get into, but start with the most difficult subject first. Because that actually kind of in your brain will start to create a reward. If you've got the one assignment that was really tough in the subjects that you're really struggling with, work on that first. Because once you've gotten past that hurdle, the easier classes and the easier assignments are their own reward. Think about it like climbing a mountain. The climb up to get over that first difficult subject is really hard. But going down the other side is a whole lot easier. So try to knock out the most difficult subject or the most difficult assignment, the one that's giving you the most trouble. Try to work on that one first, because everything else gets easier after that.
I think this is probably one of the most important slides, Alan. I've worked with a lot of people who kind of get themselves in a bind from doing it the opposite way. Doing all of their easier work first, and by the time they get to the more challenging work, it's almost so overwhelmingly frustrating to them, well, that they start talking themselves down, I guess. They start telling themselves, well, why was that work so much easier for me, and this is so difficult, and they start to make themselves think that they're, number one, not understanding it, not understanding the subject, or the assignments or the discussion questions. And when I work with them, they completely understand it. They just did it backwards. And another thing is, when they start trying to convince themselves that they're not understanding it, and they start overthinking, now they're getting discouraged. So by the next week, they've almost fallen a little bit behind. Maybe they didn't hand in an assignment or two because they're just so frustrated. And by the next week, now the easier class, now they're struggling in the easier class because, well, now they're overwhelmed. Now, because they owe work from the more difficult class from the week before, now they're just overwhelmed and they start shutting down. So I think this is really important, to make sure that the more difficult subject not takes priority, but that should be done first, so that it's like that mountain. The climb up is hard, but the hike down is much easier.
Yep. Okie dokie. Now, this is kind of going back to kind of what Ruth was touching on earlier, and what we've all said. We're all different. There are going to be no two people are going to be, they're going to have the same ideal study space. But where you study, what works best for you is what you need to set up. You need to set a space someplace, whether it's, a spare bedroom, an office tucked in the corner, at the kitchen table. Maybe you want to have a lot of distractions. Many students want limited noise and few distractions, but if you need to be in a place with those distractions and with that noise, if that helps you focus, make that your study space. The key thing, and this is, once again, I've seen a dozen studies that say this, lighting is usually a good idea. And if you can get natural sunlight, it's usually going to work better for you. You're going to stay more energized. You're going to be more easily refreshed. But whatever you do, pick an area that's comfortable for you. Maybe, like Angela said, she wants those distractions. She wants to be uncomfortable. Her uncomfortable space is comfortable. But don't make it too comfortable. I had to throw that line in because last night I was sitting and studying and I made a mistake of kicking back in the recliner. Next thing you know, laptop's hitting the floor and I'm snoozing away. So whatever works for you, whatever is comfortable for you, set aside a specific place if you can, and let that be your study space.
I kind of want to give you guys a tip, because we all keep saying what works for you. Well, how do you know what works for you? So a couple of weeks ago, Rocio and I were actually having a conversation, and I'm going to use this as an example because I think it's perfect, and it kind of was my light bulb moment. So I have an 8-year-old, and so many people, you guys with kids, can understand that working and having a smaller child and going to school, it's a pretty chaotic life, right? I'm not saying that what works for me will work for you, but you need to keep in mind your lifestyle. If you live a much more laid back, relaxed lifestyle, then odds are your study environment will kind of match your lifestyle, right? So if you are comfortable in life, and you've created this life where there's very few distractions, the noise level is predominantly low, then that's probably going to work for you. But for me, I have a small puppy and an 8-year-old, so it's never quiet in my house. So a lot of the things that, a lot of the ways that I study kind of reflect my chaotic life in that sense. For me, there's even sometimes during the summer, I like to go study at a park. And some people will be like, you want, screaming children all around you, but that's my comfort zone. That's my life, and it matches my life. Am I saying, like, if you have a really hectic life, that doing something like that to study or creating that as your ideal study space is going to work? Not necessarily, but those are things that you should try to do. You should try to match up your study space to how your life typically is. And I really think that that's a good place to start, because we can say whatever works best for you, and it could take you a couple of months to figure it out, but we want those study habits to start as soon as possible. So start with a space, or start with creating an environment that very closely reflects the life that you live.
Yeah, it's trial and error, pretty much what it is. Like, there was a time that I was studying in the dining room, and then my boyfriend got hurt, and he now wanted to watch TV loudly and play video games in the living room, and I realized I can't have all that noise. So I moved my study space, my workspace, up to our bedroom, as you can see behind me. And I like it quiet. And I tell everybody, listen, I'm going to be working, or I'm going to be doing assignments. So if you need anything, hit me up in an hour or two, or I'll come down when I'm done. But I need to have a relaxed workspace, no noise. I mean, I'm used to my bulldog snoring, but that's about it. I can't have anyone talking to me. I can't have noise. I can't have the TV on, no radio, because I'm like, ooh, shiny red ball. And that's it. I'm done. I also like to have coffee. I like to have water, anything that keeps you up, motivated, keeps your spirits up. But I need to be quiet. I need to have quiet around me.
Another thing I want to add is, while you guys are figuring out this study space, I have read, and it actually works well for me as, too, gaming music. Like in video games, the music that they play in video games is specifically designed to help you concentrate. I know you think that's crazy, but it's specifically designed to help you concentrate. I'm not saying blast it in the back. I'm not like do 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 like, but if you have it on a very low volume, it is specifically designed to help you get into the game and concentrate. And it's worked for me before. Granted, I need to have it a little louder, but that's something that I would suggest if you guys want to try something like that. Again, like Rocio said, it's really trial and error, but gaming music, you can even go on just YouTube and search gaming music, and I mean, that's going to be trial and error in and of itself, but try that, and have it on a low volume, and try that while you're reading your text, or try that while you're trying to study.
Yep. I agree 1000%. I have actually read that very same study, and I was nodding my head as you were describing that. I had not thought about it until I read it. It was in, I think it was the APA, American Psychiatric Association's journal, that they said that the background music in video games, are designed to help you focus and concentrate.
They make me want to clean. Any kind of music makes me just want to clean. That's what music for me is for. Cleaning, organizing, tidying up, washing, anything. But when I study, Angela and I had that conversation a few weeks ago, and I was like, she's like, I just need to be uncomfortable. And I was, I'd never heard anyone say that before, but it makes sense. I need to be quiet. I need to take naps in between my day.
Yep.
Everyone's different.
It's all in what works for you, and don't be afraid to try one thing, and if that doesn't work, try another, but find what works for you. Think about it like Angela's mentioned, I think Rocio mentioned it. I'm a gym junkie. I'm a personal trainer. I'm at the gym all the time. Now, everybody, you see people walking around, me included, got the headset in. Some people are listening to rock. Some people are listening to hip hop. Some people are listening to country. I was just tearing up a workout a couple of weeks ago, and a friend of mine came by and he goes, "Oh, dude, you must have a hardcore playlist going." And I pulled out one earbud and I said, "Yeah, it's a series of essays on Einstein's theory of relativity."
Yes.
What works for you is what works for you.
It's true.
All we're doing is sharing some suggestions. There is no one standard. There is no answer that's going to work for everybody. There's no one. It's just like the gym. There's no one diet that's going to work for everybody. There's no one exercise program that works for everybody. All we're doing is sharing some suggestions. Find what works for you and stick with it. But don't lock yourself into saying, I have to do it this way. If it's not working for you, try something different. Ruth mentioned earlier, is it better to study earlier in the day? Ruth, if you're a morning person and that works for you, fine. But if you try that for a week or two and you find that it's not working, don't be afraid. Don't say, I've got to do it in the morning. Try the middle of the afternoon. Try late in the evening. Find what works for you and make it consistent.
I would
And don't
also-
discourage yourself. Oh, I'm sorry, Angela.
Well, that's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, don't discourage yourself either. If it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. Don't be like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is too hard. I can't do all the reading. No, because then you talk yourself down. Talk yourself up. And if it didn't work, you try something else, and then you try hard. I mean, you're here for a reason. There's a goal. So work towards it. Don't say I can't do it.
I think I completely agree with that. And to kind of, piggyback off of what you're saying, I think it's really important to remind yourselves. A lot of us, starting Brian, have taken there's been a large gap from high school or any other college and transferring here. A lot of people I work with, there has been such a large gap. So getting back into that routine, when you're trying things out, don't just try it for 2 or 3 days. Give yourself enough time. Give yourself maybe 4 or 5 days consistently trying the same thing, because you may start to try something and 2 days later, like, no, this is not going to work for me, and go on to the next thing. And by not giving yourself enough time in that habit, you could potentially be just disregarding something that really does work. You're just not giving it the time. So really, and don't be drastic about your changes. So like for the Ruth example, studying at the same time every single day, that may work, but maybe you need to tweak it a little bit. Maybe you need to study for a little bit less time, but still try every single day. And then maybe that just really doesn't work. So we try something completely different. Don't just completely disregard something because it's not working for the first couple of days. Give it a little bit of time. And if you find that some aspects of it work and some aspects don't, then just tweak the aspects that don't. And maybe you'll find something that really, really works for you and that really works with your life. You just don't want to completely push that aside on the assumption that you don't like it after 2 days, or it's not working for you after 2 days.
Okay. Well, I think, unless anybody's got any questions, I think we can wrap this up.